You have 1 minute. This performance contains graphic images and the use of the case machine.
At the station, around 2,000 people got off the trains. We had to throw away all our luggage. Afterward, the men and women were divided into 2 groups. The larger boys were assigned to the group with the men. At the camp entrance, we girls and women who, on arrival at a camp, were not chosen for immediate death, were split up from our families. All of a sudden, I realised that the guards were breaking promises. I became fearful of my future as on the train they promised me I would stay with my family. My sister and I were marched towards the pen, not knowing what was in store for us. My sister attempted to run away from me. I grabbed her as I could not bear the thought of losing another member of my family. We were taken into a room. In this room, women of all ages underwent a gamut of humiliations, including exposure and crude body searches for hidden jewellery. I saw groups of men, women, children and elderly undress. They were taken to an open pit and shot by soldiers. Then another group would come. I saw this horror with my own eyes. Even though I was not standing close to the pit, I could hear awful shrieks of terrified people, weak voices of children crying, "Mother, mother!" I was told a story that once an officer took a family of 6. First he shot the youngest in the presence of the rest. Then he shot the older ones and finally the father and mother. Thousands of women with shaved heads stood and begged, asked about their children and husbands. The officers lied to thousands of women, telling them that their loved ones were still alive. even though they knew very well that they were all dead.
When we were taken to Auschwitz, we were separated into different groups while we were processed, treated like cattle and taken into the barracks. We were told to put all our things down, to take off our clothes and to leave them in a pile. I didn't want anyone to look at me. I was embarrassed, humiliated. There was no time to hesitate or try to keep your modesty. Then we lined up on one side. We were ordered to lie down on a wooden table, while an SS officer gawked and jeered at us the whole time. Then a woman with a stick poked around our private part. My burning cheeks betrayed my sense of shame and humiliation at being treated like an animal. After, we all walked out naked and were made standing rows on stools where they cut our hair. When I looked around, I saw young girls with scissors and clippers cutting hair off clean to the scalp. And the cold scissors touched my scalp, and my hair fell in front of my eyes. I couldn't help it. My tears fell down in the silence, mixed with my black curls. When we were made to spread our legs, as our body hair was shorn too. After, we all looked alike. Rich, poor, young, old. We shared the same fate as in No Way to Fall. We were all the same now, like sheep at the slaughterhouse, sheared for our wool and waiting for the shepherds to decide our fate.
All pregnant women, line up, he barked. Line up, line up. Your food portions are being doubled. Can you imagine? Even women who were not pregnant stepped forward. I was standing with my younger cousin, but I wouldn't go. She whispered to me, "What are you doing? Go!" But something was holding me back. Someone was watching over me. I feel maybe my mother, maybe God. On that particular day, 200 women stepped forward, and 200 women went to the gas chamber. And I don't know why I didn't step forward. A few months later, 2 men from the SS appeared at the labour camp one day, with snarling German shepherds, demanding to know who the pregnant women were. They asked the second time. I had to raise my hand. I was showing, and if I didn't put up my hand, all those other women would be killed. How could I not put up my hand? The girls wept for me. I was hand-delivered to the gates and identified by a number tattooed on my left forearm. I went into the camp and I was led to a basement. And guess who was there? 6 other pregnant women, crying, laughing, holding one another, bundling themselves in the hope that they might actually survive. One by one, the babies came, delivered by another inmate, whose only instrument was a pail of hot water.
The minute they saw a female, whether you were young, old, whether you were 8, 80, 18 or 28, they didn't care. They raped you whether you were pretty, ugly, fat, skinny, it didn't matter. It was a woman. We women were forced to strip in front of the soldiers, stand naked for hours, even days, or wait naked in lines for disinfection, or we were just whipped naked and made to dance naked. We were punished, made to stand for 12 hours naked outside in the cold weather, and for the additional punishment, the guards chose 4 or 5 women at random. We stood in a row, you know, and see those young women raped by the men with their sticks, and my mother who was standing near me, she took a hand and put it on my eyes so I shouldn't see for the first time sexual intercourse. I was too young. I'd never witnessed it before. And then the day came when they chose me. It was the overwhelming feeling as I stand and stared directly ahead of me as I took off my clothes. I was afraid, staring down towards the ground, not looking at anyone. I hoped that no one would see me. I hesitated before removing my bra. My breasts were still 2 growing buds, taut, sensitive. I felt too young to have anybody see them. see my naked flesh. So I decided to leave my bra on, and just then I heard a round of gunshots ringing out in the distance. Some women began to scream and others wept. I quickly took my bra off.